It's the Bulls Podcast, Episode 9.
Hey, Chicago Bulls fans! It's time for your Bulls Podcast. And here are your hosts, Marcus Couch and Wise Black.
Welcome to the Bulls Podcast, coming to you from bullspodcast.com. This is where we'll be bringing you the latest news, reviews, rants, rumors, and opinions on the players, coaches, and front office of the Chicago Bulls. My name is Marcus Couch, and joining me is my co-host, Mr. Wise Black.
Yo. What's up? What's good with all my Bull lifers out there, man? So first and foremost, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit up under the weather. The Chicago weather is just changing up on me, and it's all good, though. I'm not even tripping because I'm still here as always, and I'm ready to get it in. Let's go.
Hey, and before we get started, I wanted to confirm what everybody just heard in the new show intro. That is the voice that changed Chicago Bulls history forever. It is the voice of legendary six-time world champion stadium announcer Ray Clay. We're happy to weave him into the fabric of the Bulls Podcast. Can't thank him enough for helping us out and providing that to us. I look forward to just having him around at all times. That's going to be great. So thank you very much to Mr. Ray Clay. And we got a couple guests on the show today, very special guests, in fact. And I want to talk about first Mr. Kenyatta Wright, who's also known as K-Dub. He runs the Bullseye Group on Facebook. He's the founder and admin of the group. It contains about 2,000 rabid Bulls fans in it. So K-Dub, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks for having me, man. Your audience can also check me out at kenyataremo.blogspot.com. I do my work over there, and they can also check out some of the work I used to do for fansided.com under Pippin Ain't Easy. And you can catch me under that as Kenyatta Wright. I've done some of my work for them. A lot of journalism work for the past 9 years, and I kind of took a break from it and just work for my own blog, and I do my own little Bullseye group on Facebook, which you guys can try to join if you ever find our group. We have about 2,000 members on there. We're very passionate fans.
Yeah. And I want to thank you for letting us post the Bulls Podcast on there. And I'm going to put a link to everything as far as where everybody can find you right there in our show notes. And also joining us, we talked about him last week. He is one of the best Bulls bloggers out there. He's from the Windy City blog. We're happy to welcome Patrick Sheldon to the show.
Thanks so much, Marcus, for having me. Thrilled to be here and ready to jump in and talk some Bulls. As you mentioned, over at the Windy City, we're on Twitter and Facebook as well, so please feel free to come over and check us out. We got a lot of great writers over there putting out some great Bulls content for you all.
Indeed, and we thank you for that. Let's see. Well, we've got a lot in store for you this episode. Big day in sports. Jimmy wants out of Minnesota, and he's not coming to Chicago. We're going to talk about that story. We got the State of the Bulls Fan Part 2, which I've penned, and we got a nice panel here that we can start talking about that. Listener questions. We got 3 listener questions that pertain to the Bulls that our panel and Wise and I will talk about. And we've got some fun trades to think about with the ESPN trade machine. We're going to do all that coming up right after this.
Bulls fans, remember to follow the show on social media at Bulls Podcast and at bullspodcast.com.
Okay, we're back, and the story of the day, the story of the week, we're all paying attention to this. Jimmy Butler met with Tibbs in Los Angeles and apparently wants out of Minnesota immediately. And I'm wondering, does this elevate Gar Forman and John Paxson to immediate genius level status? I think it might. So here's the story. Minnesota Timberwolves shooting guard Jimmy Butler has reportedly requested a trade ahead of the 2018-19 season. He reported that he has one of 3 teams that he'd be willing to sign an extension with. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. I butchered that name. Sorry, Adrian. He listed Butler's 3 preferred trade destinations as Brooklyn, the Clippers, or the New York Knicks. Now, Joe Cowley of the Sun-Times reported that Butler was frustrated with the nonchalant attitudes of younger teammates, specifically Karl Anthony Towns, and doesn't intend to sign an extension with the Wolves. Obviously, that happened. He was linked to the Boston Celtics, playing with Kyrie Irving. Both players declined their player options, and they'll both become free agents in 2019 anyway. And so they've got this plan to create a potential super team in the East. So Tibbs was initially resistant to the idea of a trade, but Butler remains hopeful on moving to a new team before the season starts. And training camp starts in just 2 weeks, so that's kind of strange. He is scheduled to receive $18.7 million in base salary for this season, which is 12th among shooting guards and 7 spots behind Wiggins, is what Sportrack actually reports. So it's unclear whether there's even enough time to complete a major trade before this campaign gets underway in less than a month. The Wolves are set to open the preseason against the Warriors September 29th. That's just 10 days from now. And their regular season begins October 17th when they're going to take on the Spurs. All right, this is a big one. So let's get reactions to this. Wise, why don't you kick it off?
All right, basically, to me, it was a means to an end. And I say this because I think Jimmy Butler is just a type player at this point. And I only say that because I think during his rise to stardom while he was with the Chicago Bulls, he was more of a down-to-earth player, like early on when he was with Tibbs and everything like that. I think he knew that he was a really good player, but he was still a bit down to earth. But I feel like when players like Dwayne Wade came over and all of that, and he just got more in tune with more of the higher tier players in the NBA, I think Jimmy started to look at himself as that. And I think that's kind of where he kind of shifted into this new, like, Hollywood type player, you know, to quote Joakim Noah. But I just think that Jimmy wants to play with players who are like kind of like on his level in terms of just player status and as a veteran. I don't think that he wants to play with the young players necessarily unless it's a player like a Kyrie Irving who is young, but he's still a veteran. And I think that that's probably why New York would probably be the best option for him if he is to be traded. But like I said, I thought that this was just a means to an end regardless.
Yeah, I agree with that. And K-Dub, I know you got a lot to talk about this. So what's your opinion on this whole thing?
Well, Jimmy is the type of player that I felt like when he first came into the league, he was a workhorse. He was a defensive guy. He was a guy that just went out there and did the dirty work, that did what he was supposed to. I felt like the turn of his character came when he received that huge contract. When he got that huge contract, I felt like he wanted to be the man of the team, but he did it in the wrong way. He started telling guys on the team what to do. There's a lot of articles out there documenting that certain teammates that he had at the time, and Pau Gasol, Derrick Rose, and Taj Gibson, stated on the record that his attitude had changed. He became a different person once he got his contract. So to piggyback off of what Wise said, I think Jimmy is the type of player, he should be playing with a team that's already established, already has an established system. When he was playing with Tibbs, Tibbs' system was already established, and Tibbs' system kind of built Jimmy into the player that he became. So Jimmy is not the type of player to play on a team with younger guys and lead them. As you can see, when he played with the Bulls in his final year, his reaction to his players, his teammates not getting it, not picking it up quickly, is to throw them under the bus like he did in that interview that was interviewed by Comcast, where he said he needs players that really want to win. But Jimmy is not getting it that he is the reason why those players are supposed to be playing to an elite level, especially when you take on point guard duties and you say, you know, well, Derrick Rose is not a point guard. I'm the point guard of this team, and you took over the point guard duties. Because if you remember when Jimmy Butler first came into the league, he played the small forward position. He was never a point guard. So he just woke up one morning and said, hey, I'm a point guard. And I remember talking on the board one day, and I'm like, what makes this guy think that after all of these years that he's been playing with us as a small forward, he suddenly wakes up in the morning and say he's a point guard? What is it about this morning that says you are a point guard?
Just wants the ball.
Right. But if you want the ball as a point guard, part of your job as a point guard is to elevate the level of the teammates around you. That's part of the point guard's job. So if you're not dishing the ball around and you're not facilitating, but you expect these parts to play well, I think he's kind of delusionary as to what his role really is and what role he has taken on. I see Jimmy playing for a team like the San Antonio Spurs that has a system in place, Golden State Warriors, teams like that know how they want to play, takes on Jimmy and just insert him where they want him, where he can help their system. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think the Spurs would actually be a great thing because I know Pop would have none of that drama going on. Patrick, what's your take of the whole thing? I know that you probably got a lot boiling up about this.
Yeah, I got a couple thoughts, Marcus. First, I think you're spot on in terms of how we perceive maybe Gar Forman coming out of this. If there was any doubt as to who won that Jimmy Butler trade before, I think it's pretty clear today to those fans that the Bulls won that trade. To be able to turn Butler into Chris Dunn and Larry Markkinen and not have to deal with this drama, because let's face it, this would have bubbled up to the surface had he still been on the Bulls. Not only that, but it seems that they, again, it's premature, but all indications from the Summer League are Carter and Hutchinson are playing just out of their minds. So they may have hit on those two draft picks. And then you take this situation and how they were able to flip Butler for Dunn and Markkinen, and maybe the public perception of the job that Garpax is doing in Chicago might be changing a little bit. The other component to this is I think this potentially sets up for a really awkward year in Minnesota. When you take a look at those three teams, I don't think Butler is enough to put any of those teams over the top in terms of contending for a conference or NBA championship. And from their perspective, what would be the incentive for them to give up the capital that they would need to get Butler this year when they could potentially sign him as a free agent next year, especially without any guarantees of what Kyrie Irving's going to do? I know there's talk about them potentially pairing up, but who knows what's going to happen once he hits free agency. So the likelihood of him being dealt to one of those three teams, probably pretty small, unless the team's willing to bite. I know Steve Mills came out today, and maybe it's posturing on his part, but he said sort of the same thing: is why are we going to give up all this capital for somebody we could potentially sign as a free agent? So if he isn't able to get his wish and get traded, it's going to set up for a pretty awkward year in Minnesota.
Yeah. Did any of you catch what the Timberwolves account actually tweeted out today? They said, "We will bounce back," and they're showing a 2K19 video of Derrick Rose as now their front man. That's a mistake.
Get out of here, sir. Seriously?
That's just wrong, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come to Derrick Rose's defense. He's been playing well as of late.
Oh yeah.
He's been playing solid, but I think the problem is everybody expect him to be MVP Rose. He's never gonna be that kind of player ever again.
No.
But is he effective in today's NBA? Yes, he is an effective player. Would I take him off my bench? Yes, I would.
You know what? I think he should actually start over Jeff Teague come next season. Like, looking at what he did in the playoffs last year, he was basically like the best point guard that they had on that team. Now, if Jimmy Butler is still on this team come next season, the start of the season, then maybe Derrick Rose shouldn't start because he's not that great of a three-point shooter. But and nobody can deny that Derrick Rose definitely came along in the postseason last year.
Well, I'm willing to guarantee something. If Butler ends up at any of those teams that he chose, that I just seen it pop on ESPN right now, watching ESPN as I'm on your show right now, if he takes the Clippers, the Knicks, or the Nets, it's going to be a problem again. They don't have anybody on that team that can challenge Butler, because Butler needs somebody to challenge him as well.
Meaning a coach, right?
Yeah, he needs a coach or a player or some kind of veteran to say, hold up, this is how we do it. You see what I'm saying? Because he's trying to play a leader, but Jimmy don't know what it takes to be a leader. His idea of being a leader is, this is the way I do it, and everybody needs to follow my lead. Not take somebody on and say, okay, listen, you should have did it this way. Jimmy doesn't realize it, but he's a veteran. He's been in the league since 2011. We're in 2018. Some of these guys, he's been in the league longer than they have. He has to take a veteran role sometimes, and his approach as a veteran is not the correct approach. Do you guys agree with that?
No, good point. You know what? And that's actually why I said I think that the Knicks would probably be a good spot for him just because of David Fizdale. You know what I mean? And I also mentioned earlier how Kyrie Irving, I think, you know, there were rumors swirling about him wanting to go to the New York Knicks as well. And I think that that's probably the only reason that Jimmy Butler actually listed New York. the Knicks as one of his teams that he would go to just because of the possibility of teaming up with Kyrie Irving. So I think if he went there, he'd have Kyrie Irving in his ear and also David Fizdale. So
I like the points you just made. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to key on your point. I love the point that you just made about David Fizdale. I felt like he got a raw deal in Memphis.
Yeah.
He's a great players coach. And I think a coach like him would be good for Jimmy Butler. I agree with you on that.
Now, what I thought was pretty interesting is what I saw today, that Jimmy was actually considering going to Los Angeles to the Lakers until he found out that LeBron signed there, which I thought was wild. Why would you not want to play with LeBron? And now we kind of answered our own question. You know, he's kind of a diva.
Oh, man, come on, man. Like, no. I think there's something there where most Bulls players that played during those rivalries, they don't want to play with LeBron. They want to beat LeBron.
There you go.
I was shocked to see Derrick Rose on the same team as LeBron, and he ended up checking out at some point because he didn't finish the season with them.
No. I'm gonna defend D Rose with that one. I feel like with when he went to Cleveland, I think D Rose's ego was shot a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't the same player that he was with the Bulls. And I think he started to come to that realization. And he saw a chance to get a ring with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think that's the only reason he actually went up over there. Plus, not too many teams were vying for Derrick Rose's services at the time either when he was leaving New York. So
he chose where he would get the option, you know,
where he could get the ring.
When they cleared him out, then obviously Tibbs was the only guy that wanted to pick him up just because they've got an established history. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. This whole thing is just drama. It's so weird.
Jimmy's gonna end up like one of those players that was selfish and then end up the end of their career with 0 rings. If he don't change his attitude and realize that he needs his teammates. I don't feel like any of the players that he had as teammates when he was a member of the Bulls and his final years were that horrible of players where he couldn't make them into elite level players.
Yeah.
If you take a look at some of the names that he had on his team, take a look at some of the names that he had in his final years.
Rondo,
I'm thinking.
Wade.
So
yeah, you're right.
It's all about the team going to take on the personality of the leader.
They didn't know who the leader was, though, with that D-Wade, Rondo, and Jimmy team.
Yeah, how can you know who the leader is when you got a big head like Jimmy telling you I'm the leader, but I'm not giving y'all the ball. I'm going to take it over myself.
Yeah, you guys both got rings, D-Wade and Rondo, but I got nothing when I'm the guy.
And then he made that quote right when they picked up D-Wade and Rondo. I don't know if you guys remember that. He made that quote saying, I don't care who Bulls management add to this team. I'm still going to play the way I play. I'm not going to change my game. So that statement right there should give you an idea of the type of person he is.
And then D-Wade came out with that press conference statement. He was right in his first thing. He said, as far as I know, this is Jerry Reinsdorf's team. And then he goes, no, but this is Jimmy's team. I think that was a bad concession to make. I think he just should have stuck with the first. So, Patrick, you got any closing thoughts on this whole mess?
No, I was just going to say I was on Twitter today kind of following the news and saw somebody using the ESPN trade machine noted that a Noah for Butler deal straight up would work out.
Oh,
said, you need to lock Tibbs in a dark room someplace before he tries to put the band back together. So I'll close my final thought on this topic with that.
Yeah, but that's a bad idea, but Tibbs is dumb enough to do it.
Hey, listen, it's a bad idea because of Tibbs. He done ran those guys to the ground their first go-around, so they don't have a lot left at this point in their careers.
So what's your take on Hoiberg now, as far as that goes?
Fred Hoiberg should be fired at the end of this year if the Bulls are not in the top 4 in the Eastern Conference.
Whoa!
Top 4?
He should be fired. First of all, I only see 2 alpha dogs at the top of the East in the Eastern Conference. LeBron James is no longer a problem in the East. He's gone. And the 2 teams that I think is a problem in the East are very beatable. One of those teams being the Toronto Raptors. And you'd be surprised, I'm not saying Philadelphia. I'm not convinced about Philadelphia yet. They still have a lot to show me. The Toronto Raptors, especially since they got Kawhi Leonard. The Toronto Raptors and the Boston Celtics are the two best teams in the Eastern Conference right now. Now, when the season starts, that my opinion might change based on how the season goes. But as of right now, those are my two teams to lead the East. And to me, the Bulls can beat both of those teams if they're coached correctly. Now, a lot of people like to jump on me and say you're delusional, but I always put in that key phase, if they're coached correctly. You look on paper, they have a lot of weapons. The Bulls have players that were picked in the top 5 in the draft. You have 4 players that were picked in the top 5 in the draft. They have extreme young talent. I don't even think you can pick a team right now in the Eastern Conference that has as much young talent that has potential like the Bulls have.
Okay, you know what? Actually, good point about the coaching thing. But what I will say is, do you think that it's fair that Coach Hoiberg should be fired at the end of the year if they're not one of the top 4 seeds?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so
let me tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. I'll let you finish.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me why.
I think he should be fired for this reason. Since he's been here, how long has Fred Hoiberg been our coach? He's been our coach, the Bulls coach, for about 3 years, right?
3 years.
Yep, 3.
And I want you to, when this show is over, even if you don't got time now, write down every single player that Hoiberg has had on his team. He's had players that can play all different types of styles. He's had all different type of stars on his team. He had about at least 5 or more all-stars on his team. And still, he's only made 1 playoff, and I think that's because of Rajon Rondo's credit. So he has to show me something now. Management can't coach this team for Hoiberg. They can only give him the pieces. They can't coach the team for Hoiberg. Can we honestly say that the management has not given him the talent? Can we honestly say that?
Yeah.
Remember the team that he took over, they were 1 game away from beating LeBron, 2 games away from beating LeBron James and sending them home. He took over that team the next year and missed the playoffs.
You're talking about the Derrick Rose, Paul Gasol, Jimmy Butler team? That was the team.
The same exact team. The same exact team. And then, not only that, the way he's handled his team, letting Jimmy do what he wants, draw up his own plays. Fred has shown me he's a pushover coach.
Now
the Bulls need an authoritative coach that can lead them and develop their games.
Okay. I'll give you that. Hold on, Wise, because the one clip I always go back to from that year was when you could see Butler and Hoiberg are talking, and Hoiberg tells him to do something, and Jimmy goes, "What?"
I was like, "No."
What? No. I would have called timeout and said, "Butler, get your ass on the bench." Right. I'm the coach here, not you.
All right, but okay.
Mark, hold on.
No. Let me just say this real quick.
Hold on, real quick, Mark.
Like coaches also have to develop just like players. You got to remember, Fred Hoiberg is coming from college, so just like we give certain players a little bit of time to develop, like I think we got to also give him that little bit of leeway as well. You know what I'm saying? He's only been in the league. This is going to be his 4th year, so I think he can develop that heart and the mentality to be tougher on these players. He's learning. But also to the point about him having the talent, the management giving him the talent, Fred Hoiberg came into the league as a Hoiberg, type of shoot threes, run up and down the court fast and pace type of coach. He didn't have that with Derrick Rose and Paul Gasol and Jimmy Butler, the ISO player. He didn't have that even with just last year's team. Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade in them.
Let's play a little game right now. You tell me how Fred Hoiberg wants to play, and I guarantee you I can pick 4 players that he's had in the past 3 years that plays his style.
He wants to play fast pace.
Yeah, pace and
basically, pace and space and quick shots. He wants to take quick shots. I believe it's the 2-second rule. Nobody holds the ball longer than 2 seconds. Everybody shares the ball. Basically, a Golden State Warriors style of basketball. Now, tell me, who did he have to where they could play that type of game?
Chris Dunn is one of those guys right now. Rajon Rondo was one of those guys right now. Chris Dunn
can't shoot, or Rondo couldn't.
Rondo could hit them shots when he needed to, and he got to get to the rack when he needed to, and he spaced the floor and he moved the ball where everybody got the ball. And that's his style is all about spacing, running the floor, and hitting all the good shooters. And Rondo did that.
Yeah, he did that, but when Rondo was open, a lot of times he didn't knock down a three-point shot. Now, when that year that he was with the Bulls, he did have his best three-point shooting year, but that was a lot of times on driving kicks from Jimmy or D Wade, and he'd be wide open.
So what about Nico? What about marketing?
Nico was trash at first. Nico didn't get that good until just last season. Until he was good enough for us to trade him. Like, we was all hoping for that Nico. You know what I'm saying? But that one didn't show up until he wanted to be out of the door.
Okay, so there you go. How come Fred Hoiberg couldn't get that out of Nico? He's been coach of Nico for about a couple years now, though. How come he couldn't get that out of Nico as a coach?
Look, I don't even want to see like a Fred Hoiberg homer or anything like that. I'm hard on him too, but I just want to be fair. But I feel like the reason why he didn't necessarily get that out of Nico, and Nico actually said it himself, that he couldn't play with players who were always down his throat. Jimmy Butler, D Wade, they were always down that man's throat, telling him, don't take this shot. You're not a veteran. You haven't done anything in this league to be taking last-second shots and this, that, and the other. Jimmy Butler and D Wade had a huge negative effect on that team, and it had an effect on most of the players. They came out and said it. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Rondo got them back together.
I'm gonna take the other side of this. I actually think fans need to be a little patient this year with Hoiberg. I agree they got the potential to be a good team and can even surprise, but Hoiberg's got his work cut out for him. Remember, last year was kind of the year that they were hoping to get some of those pieces together to gel and coalesce on the court. And with the substantial time that Levine missed, and with Dunn missing a couple of long stints there, they didn't get that time on the court with their nucleus to kind of get a rhythm and get a feel for one another. And now he's in the same boat where he's bringing back those players who need to gel. And now you're introducing Jabari Parker, who's going to need the ball. And you're trying to work in your two rookies and make sure that they get enough time and development, and also keep Lopez and Portis happy. So how he fixes up his rotations and how he's making sure that his rookies are getting enough minutes to develop and keeping his veterans happy and making sure that they gel on the court. And all the while, you know, who's going to play defense on this team? They still haven't addressed that.
Well, this is the last statement I'm going to say
and shoot the
on
ball,
this podcast.
But, you know, what about the defensive side? They better score 160 points a game.
Oh yes, I forgot about the defense. Yeah, the defense is atrocious. But let me say this last thing to close out the podcast. I don't know if anybody else is going to speak, but this is the last thing I'm going to say. You brought up a name just now that I think the whole team should play like this guy, Bobby Portis. That's what this team is missing, attitude. They're not hungry. They don't get angry when they lose. I'm looking for a team like that takes a loss personal. These are not those Bulls.
Savage life. That's what we keep talking about. With Lauri Markkanen and Rawle Alkins, both played in Arizona, they had this hashtag Savage Life.
Yeah.
And now Rawle's here. He's in Chicago playing with Lauri. So I think that's the thing that Wise and I have been talking about forever, is bringing this Savage Life kind of bad boys attitude back. I think Bobby's going to bring that. I hope that it is infectious and rubs off on the other guys too.
Yeah, Kenyon, I'm with you on that one. They definitely need some attitude, and they definitely need a dog on this team, and I think that's definitely the role that Bobby plays. But you know who else I could see that in? If they kept him, Rawle Alkins, and even like Chris Dunn. I'm hoping that he can bring that attitude as well, because I know he has the dog in him.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
And my dark horse pick for MVP, Antonio Blakeney.
AB.
Hey, listen, that guy really is fearless, man.
I know. I love watching him. He's great, man. I hope it translates. He's just he does that weird little skip hop thing I don't like, but
you see, this is the type of player that Bulls management like to give away, though. You need to build these kind of character guys, man. That's how you're going to get that attitude, and you keep guys like this around. This guy, what's the guy that they just got rid of that I was highly upset that they got rid of, man?
Nwaba,
man. Yeah, that guy played angry, man.
That was my favorite player, man. That was like my favorite player on the Bulls last year. Like, he was, man, a beast.
He played like he wasn't going to play tomorrow on every play.
And he didn't care who he was. Yo, that dude would guard Karl Anthony Towns. He would guard Giannis, LeBron. Hey, he didn't care who it was. and that's what I loved about him.
Right, man.
So, yeah.
Man, what a heated opening segment we had here. This is awesome. So we're going to close this one out. We're going to come right back, and we're going to talk about the state of the Bulls fan, part 2, right after this. All right, we're back, and we're going to talk about something that I started the topic a couple weeks ago, and we'll continue it here. It's the state of the Bulls fan, and this is part 2. You know, there's something going on with the Bulls fan base this offseason. I haven't experienced this in a while. It's this cloud of negativity that kind of festers like an open wound. Some of you may have seen this brief Twitter flame war that I got into with Jordan from Locked On Bulls podcast this week. We kind of went back and forth about it. He was being really negative about the Bulls and their defense and the fact, you know, they won't win 40 games this year. Therefore, they're not even going to make the playoffs. And my response to him was, man, why are you so negative? We haven't even played one game yet. You don't even know what one of these guys can do. You know nothing about this. And it seemed, you know, it wasn't too long ago that we had this group of complete scrubs. And I think Big Dave, when he joined us on the podcast, called it the Spit, Glue, and Grease Club. It was like when we had Nate Robinson, Carlos Boozer, you know, Butler, and just pretty much a cast of nobodies on the team. That was the first time around that D-Rose was out that whole year because of ACL. But, man, they were a bunch of fighters. You know, there was a double-digit Cleveland win streak that we stopped on a national game on TNT. We made the playoffs that year. I mean, we showed the character of what the Bulls basketball is all about. Yet this year, it seems like a lot of fans have lost faith in the team, even when there's so much to be excited about. I'm not one of these guys that lost faith. I think this team has the personnel to reach the playoffs and shock the league with just how good we are and our young core. Like Wendell Carter Jr., just think of this. At the end of this season, Wendell Carter Jr. will only be 19 years old. We got Jabari Parker that's got an opportunity to thrive that's away from away from Milwaukee. Bobby Portis is in a contract year. He vows to be the 6th man of the year this year. Lauri Markkanen bulked up major in the offseason. He's determined that this is going to be a breakout year for him. Zach LaVine, also of the mindset that he can take things to the next level and play like an all-star. So why is the Bulls fan base getting so bitter when we haven't even seen a single game yet? In fact, training camp hasn't even started. Yet so many Bulls fans out there, Twitter, Reddit, all the rest of them, they have cursed this season as just above tank level. Wise, you even laid down the bet in Vegas that they said we wouldn't even win 28 games this year. So what gives? Why the negativity? What's it going to take for these Bulls fans to see the light and come back around to the positive side of our beloved Bulls? And Patrick, I'm going to start it off with you this time.
Yeah, you know, over at our site, we cover teams outside of the Bulls. I don't think this is an issue specific to the Bulls. It seems to be taking over all Chicago teams, unfortunately. I think there are a couple reasons for the Bulls, though, specifically. I did a post recently about the over-under projections, and Vegas wasn't high on the Bulls either. They only have them a couple of wins above their total from last year, so they don't see them improving much. I think it goes back a little bit to what I said earlier, just where's the defense going to come from on this team, and how are they going to get all these pieces to fit together? Is Parker going to stay healthy? I think there's just been so much negativity around the team recently that fans aren't willing to kind of let their guard down and be positive about them and see the good that this team can be. And I think a little bit of it is well, kind of so what if they are a decent team, they're not going anywhere, right? It's going to be tough to get past the Celtics if Hayward and Irving are both back and healthy. And if they are somehow able to miraculously get past them, nobody's getting past the West. So there's a little bit of that defeatist attitude before the season even gets started because you're kind of capped before you even tip the ball off. So I think fans should change their opinion, though. I think there's a lot to be excited about if you're a Bulls fan, a lot to be optimistic about, a lot of interesting storylines to play out this year. How's Parker going to do? Are they going to bring him back on his option next year? Is he gonna fit with the team? Looking at the jump that Markkanen's anticipated to make, I'm a huge Chris Dunn fan. A little bit biased. I went to Providence College. I followed his career very closely. Talk about a junkyard dog, man. I mean, there's nobody tougher, in my opinion, on that team than Chris Dunn and what he's had to fight through in his personal life and on the court as well, undergoing numerous injuries while in college and persevering. So I just think there's a lot to like about this team, and maybe it's not this year, but I can see this team in the next 3 years playing for a conference championship for sure. So if you're a Bulls fan now, you need to get excited.
I hear you. Kenyatta, what's your take, man? You see a lot every single day from Bulls fans.
I think most of the frustration from Bulls fans comes with, it all starts with Garpax. Some of the decisions that they have made in the past, the reluctancy that they've had in the past to make certain moves that the fans felt like they should have made. Then you have some of the moves that they did make based on, Derrick Rose and his injured past. Fans just see a reoccurrence of this with the additions that the Bulls have made with Jabari Parker and then Zach LaVine. Some fans feel like Zach LaVine is overpaid. Like you said, I read what fans write every day. A lot of people feel like Zach LaVine didn't deserve the money that he got. So there's a lot of negativity surrounding guys that are injured, and fans just have this perception of Garpax that they're never making the right moves, and that's where the frustration happens from. But as far as like the expectations that fans have for the team productive wise, I think you can point to that. We got to go back to Fred Hoiberg once again. A lot of fans don't have confidence in this guy to get this team where they need to be. And you have people saying, give him another chance, give him another chance, give him another chance. The guy has 3 years on his belt coaching this team, and they only had one playoff run. So, realistically, the fans are kind of right. But to kind of be negative and not be positive and not want to see a team succeed, make it appear like you don't want your team to succeed. I say that part is wrong. But as far as expecting the team to not do so well, I think it's just the history that the Bulls have had, in recent years.
Man, you guys basically said most of the points. I mean, because I actually agree with the point that you made about the coach, and I think that's a lot of the reason why some of the Chicago Bulls fans are so negative. But I don't know, me personally, from what I see and what I read on my Bulls YouTube channel, I think that there's more of a larger side or a larger group that's more positive about the Bulls come next season. Some people actually think that I'm a little bit negative about the Bulls because I actually projected them to win between like 38 to 40 games. And you have some people who think that they're going to win plus 45. So I don't know. But I do see some people, and like you guys said, I think that a lot of people are negative on the Bulls because of Zach LaVine's contract. A lot of people feel like he probably shouldn't have got that much money, and also even with Jabari Parker. But even to even go back to what you were saying, Marcus, about the Tom Thibodeau Bulls back when we had Nate Robinson and the Rough Rider guys, Fred Hoiberg isn't Tom Thibodeau. He's not that type of coach. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people look at the Bulls as soft. Plus, a lot of those players that were on Tom Thibodeau's team were veterans. You know what I mean? And they were in the league for a while and they knew the game. The Bulls have a very young core group of players. And I think that that's also partially why a lot of, or some of the more negative fans are that way. They just don't think that the Bulls have enough to stack up against some of the competition that's in the NBA, period, not even just the Eastern Conference. And, so I think that that's probably the reason why they feel like, it's a lose-lose situation for the Bulls. But me personally, I don't see it that way. I think that we have a lot to be optimistic about just with players like Chris Dunn, who, I really enjoy watching him play. I really thought that before he got injured last season, he was he was the shiny star on the Bulls. Besides Lauri Markkanen, Chris Dunn had a lot of really nice games. I saw him close out a lot of games, and plus he was a defensive anchor. So I really enjoy watching Chris Dunn play. Lauri Markkanen, what haven't we said about him? A lot of us are giving him a lot of praise, which is deserving. You know what I mean? And plus the new acquisitions of the rookies and Wendell Carter Jr. and Chandler Hutchison, who looks like he's going to be at least a fairly good NBA player as well. And, man, I just think that a lot of fans need to pump the brakes, the ones who are negative, pump the brakes, and let's just see what happens come next season. And even on Fred Hoiberg, let's see what he can do. Now he has the talent that he always said that he wanted, so let's see what he's going to do with it.
That is a heated debate, and I thank you guys for putting your input into that. We're going to take a quick break and come back and answer some listener questions right after this. Hey, remember, everybody, we're a new show, and we do need your support in social media. We made it super easy to find us on all our social media links. You can just go to bullspodcast.com/social, and we've got everything listed there. Or if you just want to take the direct route, we made some short links for you. bullspodcast.com/Twitter, bullspodcast.com/Facebook/YouTube/Instagram. You get the point. Help us out on social, spread the word, and make the Bulls Podcast great. Okay, we're back. I just want to go over some quick Bulls Podcast housekeeping stuff. Reminder out there, we do have our new hotline up. And that number is 312-626-5401. We're going to pose a question of the week. So you can call that, listen to the question, and make sure you hit 1. Tell us your name, tell us where you're from, and give us your answer. Or if you've got a question or anything like that. As I said before, put that number in your phone book, 312-626-5401. That's also the number where we're going to be taking live calls once the season starts. So we're going to be doing at least once a week a quick post-game show, and that's something that's not really done on the internet for the Bulls right now. So we're going to be the first ones to do it. Last week we talked about our Young Bulls segment. That's where we're going to have a couple teenage people onto the show to talk about the Bulls as our special guests. So if you're parents out there, you got youngsters that are interested in sports broadcasting, or they're just big-time Bulls fans, go to bullspodcast.com/youngbulls and fill out that contact form. And something brand new to talk about here. I just built this past week. It's bulls.fm, and we're so happy to be a part of that. That's where we're going to be doing live streaming, and we're going to have a 24/7 audio channel that's actually going to be doing playback of all the latest Bulls podcasts that come out. And I don't just mean ours. We're going to have this show, the Bulls Podcast. We're going to have Bulls Gold, Bulls HQ, Chicago Bullseye, that's C-Red Fred that we've had on the show, Ball on Bulls with C-Dub and Big Dave. They're on that as well. The Bulls Beat with Doug Thonis, and the Big Red Bus, which is also Doug and C-Red Fred on that show as well. So that's 7 podcasts. If you go to that site, bulls.fm, all the shows are going to be automatically updated, and the site's going to be always 100% fresh and current. So if you want to listen to any Bulls podcast at will on the mobile device, anything you got, bulls.fm is the place to go. We'll be right back with listener questions. Okay, so we've got some listener questions here. These came from various sources, emails, direct messages on Twitter, and all the rest of it. First question is from Derek. Why is Omer Asik the 4th option on this team? That guy can play, plus he's a decent rim protector. Ever since we got him from New Orleans, he's been MIA. I'll answer this one. It's because he actually might be used this year. He's a great veteran who we actually drafted 40. We brought him over from Turkey. He got sick with Crohn's disease, and he had some bad infections to boot on that. He lost 40 pounds in that whole process. So he's fighting back to get into playing shape. Hopefully he's going to be out there to help Wendell Carter Jr. and hopefully the scourge of the team, Cristiano Felicio, and guide them and make them a little bit better. So hopefully so. And I'm just teasing about Felicio because he might comment back to me like he did on Instagram. Question from White Mamba Juice. Got some Scalabrini fans in the house. I've seen a lot of different comparisons to Wendell Carter Jr., but one I haven't seen, I feel like I need to evaluate this comparison, is comparing him to Davis. They're both very dominant players on the defensive end. I know some people will say AD is a way better offensive player, and you might be right, but Davis wasn't always a dominant offensive force. So he lists Wendell Carter Jr.'s summer league stats: 14.6 points a game, 2.6 blocks, 1.6 assists, and 9.4 rebounds. And then he listed the Team USA stats for Anthony Davis because he didn't play in the summer league. He went to Team USA: 13.5 points per game, which is under Wendell Carter. 1 assist, that's also under Wendell Carter's output, and 8.2 rebounds a game, also under what Wendell Carter did. He says, I know summer league is not the same as the NBA, but it's always fun to be optimistic. Let me know what you guys think.
I'm glad he said that it's not the same as the summer league.
Right. I mean, for me, I like the comp, actually. You know what I mean? And I guess I get why he would even make it, because they're actually the same height as 6'10" with the long wingspan and all that. But I think no one is saying AD yet because of how low everyone was on Wendell Carter Jr. coming out of Duke. You know what I mean? No one thought he had that high of a ceiling. So I think that's why he was pegged as like an Al Horford type instead of AD. People saw him as like, you saw his ceiling as like a borderline all-star / all-star ceiling type player instead of a superstar. So we haven't even seen Wendell Carter Jr. dribble a ball necessarily yet. So I don't know. Maybe that's why people aren't seeing that just yet. But after this summer league showing that he had, I could see why he would make that comparison.
All right. This next one's a question from Dave. This is our last question here in the segment. What do you think the trade value is of Bobby Portis? Crazy Eyes is a great stretch 4 or NBA 5. It says, I don't think he will want to be Lowry and Wendell's backup forever. Parker might take minutes at the 4 as well. It's Bobby's contract year, and I can't help but wonder if anyone thinks he could bring us a key piece that we need in a trade, like maybe wing defense or 3-point shooting. Maybe the Pistons would take him to spread the floor for Drummond at the expense of a pick and Stanley Johnson or Luke Kennard. I just don't see us keeping him for under $10 million a year, or him being satisfied as a role player, but I could be wrong. Just curious as to what you guys think. What do you think the trade value is of Bobby Portis?
His trade value should be high, man, but I wouldn't jump the gun on trading him just yet. Robin Lopez is on his way out. I would like to see Bobby play some 5, believe it or not.
Good point. I do think that Robin Lopez may be on his way out, and that actually is going to free up, $14 million? From the Bulls. So that actually may be a good idea to try and keep Bobby Portis around. But I don't necessarily know if I would want to keep Bobby Portis if he's asking for more than $10 million a year, which I think he will, especially with the cap rise in the next couple of seasons when he's going to be a free agent.
Patrick, what's your opinion on Bobby Portis as trade bait?
Yeah, that I agree. I wouldn't be in a rush to deal him. You know, how much value he's going to have is going to depend on the team that's looking at him and how does he put that team over the top, because it's going to be for a rental, right? So what are the Bulls going to get back for a short-term rental, especially if they know they're unlikely going to be able to sign him at the end of the year if he's asking for that kind of money. So maybe a second-round pick, depending on, again, how badly does the team that wants him think he's the final piece of the puzzle? Then the Bulls will have some leverage and maybe they could swing a little bit more out of him. But based on the amount of time they're going to have him for, I don't know. I agree that from a talent standpoint, he's got a lot of value, but relative to what the team's going to get out of him, if you're trading him mid-season, I don't know how much the Bulls are going to be able to get back.
That's a good question, and something that we'll have to answer as the season continues, obviously, to see what Bobby's role is and how he steps up and if he's actually going to be sixth man. And are we going to keep him around long enough actually to let him be sixth man of the year? We'll find out. Well, that was some great questions. So reach out to us again on the website or on Twitter or anywhere else as far as any questions that you might have for us. And we're happy to shoot them around roundtable style right here on the Bulls Podcast. We're going to be right back with our world famous ESPN Trade Machine Trades right after this. Okay, we're back, and it's the segment that you all love to hate. It's us trading away one of your favorite Chicago Bulls players to somebody else on some other team. We use the ESPN trade machine. Check out our show notes, and we've got a link to that right there. I'm going to kick this one off. This one's, to me, I don't know. I think it's worth it. And plus, this is a player that responded to us on Twitter many times. I'm going to trade Bulls Denzel Valentine to the Brooklyn Nets and bring back Spencer Dinwiddie. I think that we all talk about David Nwaba is that one that got away. But I'd like to assert that actually the real missing asset that we need to talk about is Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't think that he really shined with us when we had him. We got him off waivers, claimed him from Detroit. He did a pretty good job for us, but had kind of limited playing time. And now we could really use him again. He narrowly beat out Lauri Markkanen in the NBA skills contest at the All-Star break, showing that he really does have NBA-level skills, and he could be a really good backup point guard that we need right now. He just signed a $1.6 million 1-year contract with the Brooklyn Nets, and I think that we could prime away with Denzel Valentine. What do you think, Wise?
Man, I actually love the trade. I just wish that it could happen, but I don't know. Because I think that the Nets actually look at Spencer Dinwiddie as a valuable piece. He actually came along really well last season, and I actually hate that the Bulls got rid of him for Jerian Grant. I couldn't believe that. Like you said, he didn't get much playing time when he was with the Bulls, but I felt like that was the fault of the coaches. Because even watching them, giving them the eye test on the court, when I watched him compared to Jerian Grant, he looked like a much better player. Plus, he's a 6'6" point guard. You don't just trade away or let a 6'6" point guard just go so easily. So it was definitely a mishap on the Bulls front office. That was one of their big mistakes that they made of quite a few. But I dig the trade, though. I just don't know if the Brooklyn Nets would agree with it because Denzel Valentine, you get basically the same thing in Allen Crabbe. So
yeah, that's true. Patrick, would you pull this trade off if you could?
Oh yeah, if I could. I tend to agree. I don't know if I'm doing the deal if I'm the Nets, but if I'm the Bulls and they're a willing partner, I'm doing that trade. We ran a post over at our site recently where one of our contributors wondered whether the signing of Jakar Sampson may have made Valentine a little bit more expendable as well. So, where he fits on next year's club as well could be an issue. So, yeah, I would do that deal if the Nets were willing.
K-Dub, what do you think?
I think this is a good trade. 2 thumbs up.
All right.
I like Dinwiddie when he played for us. I actually liked him as I thought he should have been our starting point guard, believe it or not. He outshined everybody we had at that time. He attacks the rim at the right time. He runs the offense extremely well. He sees the entire floor. He sees everybody that's open. He takes the right shot at the right time, makes the right pass. He's a very intelligent player, very confident player, can shoot the ball. It's the whole opposite with Denzel Valentine. He don't know what he's doing on the floor. If it's not a shot, he don't know what he's doing on the floor. If it's a shot, sometimes he don't know what he's doing on the floor either. This guy has had plenty of time to develop. I don't know, man. I'm not a Denzel Valentine fan. I've been giving him a lot of time to be aggressive, and he's not cutting it for me. He's a one-dimensional player, and all he's good for is just spot up 3-point shots. And I feel like you can find a lot of shooters in this league that do what he does.
Yes, sir.
Yep. I agree. All right, Wise, you got a trade. Break our hearts, man. Let's hear it.
Now, right, you guys tell me if you think that this could actually happen. I try to put together trades that I think has a bit of a possibility of taking place. But my trade is I have the Bulls sending Wendell Carter Jr., rookie sensation, Bobby Portis, and also fellow rookie Chandler Hutchison over to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, my thinking behind this one is Wendell Carter Jr. is the perfect Tom Thibodeau type of player. He's pretty much, I won't say the total opposite of Karl-Anthony Towns, but in terms of mentality, he is like the perfect defensive player that I think Tom Thibodeau would be salivating over because he actually puts in the effort which Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't. like Karl Anthony Towns isn't, that great of a defender. But I think why a lot of people are super high on Karl Anthony Towns, which I'm also one of them, is because I feel like his offensive ability is unlimited. I could definitely see him being one of the best bigs in the league offensively. And I think you can work on defense. But with Wendell Carter Jr., I think that he filled that role of Karl Anthony Towns fairly decently. Like, I'm not saying that he is equivalent value to Karl Anthony Towns, but after seeing what he did in this past summer league, no one can deny that this dude has a very, very high ceiling. And that's why I also threw in players like Bobby Portis just to sweeten the pie. And also Chandler Hutchison, who I feel like Tom Thibodeau would maybe look at like a Jimmy Butler type. Not saying that he would be as good as Jimmy Butler turned out to be, but I think he's one of those players that you can mold into how you want them to be. Or I won't say how you want them to be, like he's controlling them. But I think that Chandler Hutchison just has that mentality to get better. You saw it when he was in college over at Boise State. He, his numbers rose every year that he was in college, especially when he reached his junior and senior seasons. So, I mean, and for Chicago, it's just a no-brainer if you ask me. Plus, with all of this turmoil going on in Minnesota right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Cat wanted to leave come next year.
And I like it because it gives Minnesota that opportunity to rebuild again.
Exactly.
And you got people like Wiggins and that can all go through because, I'm sorry, but Bulls 2.0 over there isn't going to last more than a year. There's no way that they keep that train rolling off those rickety wheels. It's just not happening. Wow. So, K-Dub, what do you think of this, man? Would you do this?
No, I would not do that trade.
No.
No. I actually think Wendell Carter Jr. is going to be a better player than Karl Anthony Towns.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a heavy prediction.
And the reason why, listen, this is the gift that I have. Like, I feel like God gave me a gift for sports. I can actually see a player's heart right through his body. And Karl Anthony Towns does not have the work ethic that I feel and the confidence I feel to improve his game. I don't see him as a player that gets in the gym and works on his game. Wendell Carter Jr. wants to be great. I can see that in him right now. Mm-hmm. Right now, I can see that in him.
Okay, what I would say to that is, like, I feel you on that, but I feel like Wendell Carter Jr. is one of those players who is so much of a team player almost to a fault to the point to where he's selfish. And I only say that because of what he did at Duke when he probably is a more superior talent than Marvin Bagley III. But for the sake of the team, and I think it was also listening to his coach, he took a back seat to him. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Wendell Carter Jr., after looking at what he did, I definitely think that his ceiling is through the roof. But as far as the mentality to be the greatest player or the best player on the team, I question it a little bit.
I just look at this kid, Wendell Carter Jr., man. He's an animal, man. He's a machine. And it's like, I put him out there on the floor. He'll do like 5 different things in one run down the floor. He'll do like 5 different. He'll block a shot. He'll grab a rebound. He'll pass it. He'll go out to the 3 to hit a shot. He just got so much energy, man. He's able to give you so much in so little time. I see the talent there, man. I just think Karl Anthony Towns is just a step slower than this kid. And I just think he's going to get better. Once he gets an NBA body and he gets stronger, oh, my goodness. This is what he's doing in the summer league. And I know he's playing against kids in the summer league, but you still should be able to see talent in a guy.
No, for sure. I definitely do. But
yeah.
He has the skills, man. I think that Wendell Carter is going to be a star in this league, in my opinion.
I hope so.
And I'm going to also say something that I can't believe I'm saying right now. I think he has more intangibles than Markkanen.
No, that's not a hot take.
He's a better defender than Markkanen. I can see that right
clearly.
now.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like this kid got a lot of intangibles, man. And I like Markkanen. Markkanen is my favorite basketball player on the Bulls right now. And I'm saying he has more intangibles than Markkanen does.
The thing about Markkanen is he has that star power. He has that swagger. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what people fell in love with Lauri Markkanen, looking at what he did at Madison Square Garden. You know what I'm saying? Putting up like 28, 32 points on Porzingis.
Which was his best game.
The Mecca. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where people fell in love with Markkanen. But
Wendell Carter
Jr., he definitely has way more intangibles.
Wise, I love that trade. I love it. I would pull the trigger in a second if I'm the Bulls.
Tell me why.
Well, anytime you got a chance to get an elite talent like Cat, I mean, that changes your team. I agree. Wendell Carter Jr. could be great. Hutchinson could be good too, but there are no guarantees, right? I mean, they're lottery tickets. We already know what we got in Towns. Hutchinson played well. He's a late bloomer. He played well his senior year, but he's a little bit older for a rookie. He may have hit his ceiling already. And, Carter could be good, but you don't know, right? There are no guarantees with these picks, but you know what you got in Towns, and he's a game changer. And different sport, but you see what the Bears are doing with their game changer they got for a couple of first-round draft picks. When you have a chance to get an elite talent like that, I think you got to jump all over it, especially for two rookies and a guy whose deal is expiring. I think the Bulls would be great at that.
Well, let me tell you this. Chandler Hutchinson was the first player that I've seen in a long time that was pulled out of the draft before the draft even started. This kid is great, man. He's been under the tutelage of players like Kobe Bryant. He's a really good player. There's no guarantees with him or Wendell Carter Jr. But there's also no guarantees that if you get Karl-Anthony Towns in Chicago, you're going to win anything. Because he hasn't done anything in Minnesota, and he's had Tom Thibodeau as a coach. He's had Jimmy Butler on alongside him, and among some other great players like Teague with him, and he hasn't done anything yet over there.
I would counter, my bad for cutting you off, but I would counter with the coaching point about Tom Thibodeau has never necessarily been a young player's coach. You know what I'm saying? And Fred Hoiberg, I think he's the total opposite of Tom Thibodeau. That's the reason why the Bulls brought him over. And I think he would actually enhance Karl-Anthony Towns' game. Over there in Minnesota, Tom Thibodeau likes to play more of the bang game, the back to the basket, the old way, the traditional ISO basketball. If Karl-Anthony Towns came over to Chicago, I could see him blossoming, and I could see all of his tools being used. I think that Tom Thibodeau isn't using Karl-Anthony Towns the right way, and that's why you aren't seeing his full potential. You know what I'm saying? But like you were saying about Wendell Carter Jr., I can actually see the game in Karl-Anthony Towns, and I think he's going to be one of the best centers in the league, man.
But Karl-Anthony Towns don't want to shoot more jump shots than having his back to the basket, and he's going to be doing that being coached by Fred Hoiberg. See, that's one thing you're missing. Yeah. Fred Hoiberg's a shooting coach. He's not going to drop a lot of plays to have Karl-Anthony Towns back to the basket. Karl-Anthony Towns will have to shoot a lot more in Chicago.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that, but I don't know. Good point, but we shall see, man.
Yeah, shall see.
And that's why we like this segment, man. It's fun to play in the sandbox and pretend that we're Garpax and GMs and all that. And I love it. So we'll be right back to round it out and say goodbye right after this. All right, we had such a great show today. Man, so much spirited debate, and that's exactly what this is just a bunch of Bulls fans talking about the Bulls, right? It's the podcast made by Bulls fans for Bulls fans. And I want to say thanks again to K-Dub and Patrick Sheldon. And Patrick, where can they find you online and talk to you further about the Bulls?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, guys. This is a blast. I appreciate it. And if you're interested in some other Bulls and other Chicago sports content, please check us out at DeWindy City. You can find us on Twitter and on Facebook. Please check us out. We got some great content over there, and go Bulls.
All right. Kenyatta, where can we find you online?
My website is kenyataremo.blogspot.com. I'm working independently these days. You can leave a comment on one of my articles, view some of the work that I've done. You can also catch some of my stuff at fansided.com, some of the work I've done. But currently right now, I'm just working independently on my own blog.
Nice. And I'll put a link to the Bullseye
I'm sorry,
Facebook group.
And at Kenny Wright 31 on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter as well.
All right, we'll put that out there. And, again, the Bulls Facebook group that you run, Bullseye. It's a great source for a lot of different stuff. You post many different things every single day, which is great. And I want to thank you again for allowing us to put our show there as well. That's brought a lot of new listeners to the show. So I thank you for your early support. That's been nothing but a blessing from you. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart on that one.
You're welcome, man. God bless.
Yeah, and before we go, remember, subscribe to the show at bullspodcast.com/subscribe. That's where you're going to get the links to everywhere we are. We are on iTunes and Apple Podcasts now, so we want you to subscribe to us there. Give us a 5-star review. Leave your feedback on the show. And just like you heard last week, we do read them out as we get them, so yours will be on the next show if you can pop yours in pretty soon. Next week, we're going to have Edward Schuler on the show. He's the host of Bulls Gold. That's a great podcast, and hopefully his co-host, Salim Sudarwala, is going to join us as well, I hope. So it's going to be a great show as we hit episode number 10. Wise, what's your closing thoughts on the show?
I just want to say thank you to the guys, Patrick and Kenyatta, for coming on. We really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed this episode 9. It was a blast. I really enjoyed debating with you guys, and this is what Bulls fans are all about. So that's pretty much it, man. And guys, you already know, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @radical_creator. And you already know we're going to continue to do this every week. So be ready.
All right.
Let's go, Bulls.
Okay, until then, thanks for listening, everybody. Go Bulls.
Hey, Bulls fans. This is your Bulls championship announcer, Ray Clay, saying so long, everybody. Go Bulls.